the third manned mission of the Tiangong space station's application and development stage. And joining me here in the studio are Professor Ye Guangfu, Vice Chair of the International Astronautical Federation Space Transportation Committee, and Professor Shenzhou, Associate Professor of the School of Aerospace Engineering in Tsinghua University. Welcome to you both. Pleasure to have you on. Now let's get the latest on the ground. We can go live to our correspondent Zheng Yibing, joining us at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. We are just less than 3 hours to go till the launch. What's the mood there? How's it going with the team? How are the taikonauts preparing for the launch?
Well, yes, Chuyan, we're talking about the atmosphere. Well, we can see the answers from the faces of audiences around here in this Yuanmengyuan Square. Well, they're so excited and happy. And today there were two spectator seats beside me. On my left side, there are audiences from the all working systems. They're waving the flowers and flags to each other, trying to cheer up for the Chinese taikonauts. And they are from also the children from the middle school and primary school of this area of the launch center. On my right side, there are also hundreds of people. They're mainly reporters and journalists, not only from China, but also from across the world. They're ready to record an exciting moment of the setting out of the Shenzhou 18 crew members. When we're talking about the Shenzhou 18 crew members, yesterday morning, we met them inside Wentiange, the living compound for the Chinese taikonauts, to stay and work during their stay at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. There are the commander Ye Guangfu and crew member Li Cong and Li Guangsu. Well, yesterday we talked to them about a lot of the feelings and excitement. And another thing I want to share with you is we heard the three crew members have had a very good meal with delicious Chinese cuisines, including the steamed stuffed bun, which is called in Chinese 包子, which has the auspicious meaning the victory for this mission. Another thing I want to share with you is the big screen behind me in the distance. During the previous missions, we usually see the big posters showing the various Shenzhou mission, but this time we see it is replaced with a big LED screen. And it has two functions. On the one hand, it's going to show the new Shenzhou 18 crew members, and also it is going to provide audiences at Yuanmengyuan Square with a live footage of the entire launch mission. So it is really good design. In less than 10 minutes, the setting out ceremony for the Shenzhou 18 crew members will be held here. So we're going to wait here and keep you updated. Back to you.
Yeah, we're standing by for that takeoff ceremony. Thank you so much, Yibing, live for us at the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. Now, to learn more about the spacecraft carrying out the Shenzhou 18 mission, our reporter Zheng Yibing talked to a senior researcher for the spacecraft system.
The Shenzhou 18 is a third manned spacecraft for mission to China's space station. It has the same design as Shenzhou 16, 17, and the following 19 spacecraft.
From the general technical state, there are the orbital module, the re-entry module, and the propellant module. And there are solar panels and the engines. They are consistent with the previous technological designs.
The biggest difference this time is upgrade to the spacecraft's battery, replacing the cadmium nickel battery with lighter and smaller lithium one, which has a much longer life.
The Shenzhou spacecraft as a manned vehicle requires the highest safety and reliability. The upgrade to the battery has been fully verified in our space station, cargo ships, and other spacecraft.
There were also small modifications, like a little more space for space science experiments. And Chen Tongxiang explained how Shenzhou 18's flight will go.
It is the 7th manned flight for China's space station. After liftoff from Jiuquan, it will fly for 6.5 hours and make orbital transfer, and then the fast rendezvous and docking with the space station. Shenzhou 18 crew will rotate with Shenzhou 17 crew and stay in the station for 6 months and then return.
For this mission, the Shenzhou spacecraft system has been working day and night to make sure the flight goes smoothly. Zheng Yibing, CCTN in Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center.
For more, let's bring in our guests in the studio, Professor Yang and Professor Sui. So let me start with Professor Yang first. Another manned mission to the Tiangong space station. Talk to us about their mission tasks. What kind of tasks will the Shenzhou 18 crew carry out?
Well, Shenzhou 18 mission will be the third mission during our utilization and development phase of the Tiangong space program. You know, that's no exception that this mission is also focusing on a lot of experiments. What impressed me most is that, that according to Mr. Lin Xiqiang, the announcer of China Manned Space Program, we have conducted more than 130 experiments from the Shenzhou 12 mission to the Shenzhou 16 mission. So you can see 5 missions, more than 130 experiments. But that this time for the Shenzhou 18 mission, a single mission, they will conduct more than 90 experiments. So you can see how intensive it is and how challenging it is. So I believe that this will be the most remarkable feature of this Shenzhou 18 mission. We will have more returns from their scientific research.
And as we speak, we're looking at the live pictures from the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center. That's a great view of the Wentiangge. This is where the astronauts live and work prior to the launch. Momentarily, they will emerge from that building. They'll meet the press, and we will bring that takeoff ceremony to you. So, Professor Sui, talk to us about the breakthroughs in terms of those experiments. So, Professor Yang just mentioned more than 90 scientific experiments will be carried out. And I understand they're bringing fish to space for the first time. Talk to us about it.
Right, so that is very well known, I think, and it's very special for this mission. I'll just introduce what is the zebrafish, which they're sending up to the space. So the zebrafish looks like this, and it's actually very small. It's very special because it is transparent. Actually, from the body, you actually can see inside the muscle, the bone, the organs, so that we can learn a lot of things from observing their behaviors, and that'll leading to better understanding of how our human system, how we move on Earth, how we're going to be able to move in the space. The study of a fish will lead to tremendous amount of new understanding of human neuromusculoskeletal organ system study and understandings.
And this is called zebrafish, right? Is there any reason that they chose this kind of fish in particular?
I think this is a model animal for a lot of biological research. For example, neuroscience or development biology, because there are a lot of genetic tools and other scientific technologies that can investigate this animal in details.
Once again, you're looking at the Yuan Square. The name literally means dreams come true, and this is the place where the takeoff ceremony or send-off ceremony will be held. You can see everything's all set. The banners, the flags, the microphones for the astronauts, one for the commander as well. On your left is the press corps. More than 100 journalists are there documenting this historic moment. On your right are the crowds of people who are there to see the astronauts off. There you go. The astronauts have emerged from the Wentiangge. Here comes the Shenzhou 18 flight crew. Flight commander Ye Guangfu standing in the middle with flight crew Li Xiqiang and Li Guangsu. And you can hear the loud cheer from the crowd. I mean, there's no red carpet here, but this certainly feels like a red carpet event. Lots of excitement here. The vibe is electric. I mean, this is a shared experience that we're all enjoying right now as people across China and the world are watching this together. And that's wonderful.
Comrade Commander-in-Chief, we are following the order to carry out Shenzhou 18 manned spaceflight mission. Now we are ready to go. Please indicate. Member of PLA Astronaut Corps, Taikonaut Ye Guangfu, Taikonaut Li Xiqiang, Taikonaut Li Guangsu. Proceed. Yes. Salute.
After declaring their mission and given a go-ahead by the chief commander, the 3 astronauts are waving to the crowds. They're going to pose for the camera for a bit before taking off. Really a mix of veteran astronauts and newcomers, and quite a young team as well. All of them were born in the 80s, so they're in their 30s and 40s. Flight Commander Ye Guangfu just got back from the space station about 2 years ago, but this will be his first time taking the role of flight commander. He's shouldering more responsibility this time. Was born in 1980. He's from Sichuan province in South China. Well, he had trained for 11 years before making that first trip to space in 2022. And flight engineer Li Xiqiang was born in 1989. He is from Hebei province, used to be a fighter jet pilot, and became a taikonaut in 2020. And guess what? He once said in an interview he wanted to be a singer when he was little, so I bet he can sing really well. Then you've got Li Guangsu. He was born in 1987. Is from Jiangsu province, used to be a pilot from the Air Force as well, and became a taikonaut in 2020, just as Li Xiqiang did. So the two had been training together for quite some time. That's Mr. Yang Liwei, the first astronaut in China has ever been to space. Crowds are cheering for them, wishing for them good luck and a smooth flight. They are waving to the crowd, smiling, big smile on their face, waving confidently. And they're hopping on that mini bus, which will take them to the launch pad. It'll take about 15 minutes for the van to get to the launch pad. Looks to me they are in quite a good spirit there. A thumbs up for us. Once again, the second time for Mr. Ye Guangfu there. I guess he is quite familiar with the drill, huh, because the weather seems to be pretty nice. Clear sky, an ideal weather for the launch. And talk to us about the launch window, Professor Yang. Why is it at night this time?
You may notice every time the launch window is different. This depends on the relative position between the launch site and our target, the Tiangong space station. You know that the Tiangong space station is orbiting the Earth with the altitude about 400 kilometers above the Earth, and also the inclination or the angle between the orbital plane of Tiangong and the equatorial plane is about 41.5 degrees. But you know that the orbital plane is also changing very slowly in the orbit. So after several months or years, so the position will be different. So every time if we want to reach the Tiangong space station with another spacecraft, either an Shenzhou spaceship or a Tianzhou cargo spacecraft, the basic requirement is that when the chasing spacecraft is entering the orbit, it must be in the same orbital plane of Tiangong space station. So this is the most important, the most essential requirement to the launch. So you can see every time we don't have other choices but to launch the spacecraft when the launch site is rotating along with the Earth when passing through the orbital plane of our Tiangong space station. So this is the reason why every time it is different. We can still remember last year it was in deep night.
Doctors on Earth, right? So a lot of treatments will not be available in a space.
So they do have medical support when they're up there?
Yes, not only during their flight in the orbit, but also before and after the flight. So the medical team is a very big team, not only monitoring their biological parameters, but also doing a lot of things, such as, for instance, design the, such as you mentioned that, and also their daily schedule. Usually, you know that just when the time is close to their return, they will increase their exercise every day. Because that after half the year in orbit, even if you already have so much exercise, and even if you will have a very good nutrition, but still you need to enhance your bones, your strength, your muscles during the return procedure. Because you must face not only the normal return, also the G forces will be 3 to 4G. But in abnormal cases, it will be very, very tough for them. And my friends, Miss Ye Guangfu from Korea, also.
Oh, there we have it. I think this is one of the astronauts. I think this is Li Guangsu. Standing up. Li Guangsu.
03.
03.
03. The code is 03. He will enter first because the commander needs to sit in the middle, so he must be the last one.
So Li Guangsu is sliding in to this is the orbital module, and then he will descend to the re-entry module.
That every time they have some personal private belongings. Mr. Li Guangsu mentioned that he will borrow some toys of his kid.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, you can see that the ground staff from probably the Shenzhou spaceship system in the orbital module help the astronauts.
It's not easy to get in, huh?
Yes, exactly. Very, very, you can see very, very narrow space. Now this is a camera in the re-entry capsule. In the middle is the seat of the commander. So he will go first reach this, we usually call this basin. Each basin is designed according to their personal body shape. Yes, exactly.
It's not that easy to walk in that space.
So Mr. Li Guangsu will sit in the basin close to the camera on the left. Yeah.
After him, next up is Mr. Li Cong.
Yes.
Well, Ye Guangfu waits for his turn.
That Mr. Li Cong has...
我是北京，景山请讲。景山天路长江7号3小时准备完毕。景山报告完毕。北京明白。
Mr. Li Cong is what we call the 02. 02 has a very important task.
What is it?
Yeah. During the landing, he is in charge of the button to cut off the parachute.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is a very important task.
Very, very important. During the history, we only have a perfect landing vertically during the Shenzhou 6 mission and the Shenzhou 13 mission. Only in these two missions, the Shenzhou re-entry capsule standed there vertically.
So the other ones, they landed on the side?
Yeah, they lie down. That a vertical landing will be more comfort. But this is a very high requirement to the parachute cutter.
There's a yellow bag there with some manuals and necessary checkup stuffs in there.
Yeah, and Mr. Li Cong is the youngest guy in this crew, only 35 years old. Okay,
now
commander.
The flight commander, Ye Guangfu.
This is second mission, and Mr. Ye Guangfu will break the record of the duration of stay in outer space for our Chinese astronauts.
A very short gap between the two missions, huh?
Yes, not only the gap, he's
2 years,
already in outer space for half a year. So this is another half a year. So after this mission, he will stay the first astronaut in China that stay in the orbit for 1 year.
Look at that, a record breaker.
A record breaker, yes.
Now what's different for him is that he will be staying in the orbital module for a bit, completing the final status checks, as he is the flight commander.
Yeah.
After all the final checkups, he will descend into the re-entry module.
Yeah. So this is we see that these cameras.
我是北京，华山请讲。华山3小时准备完毕。北京明白。
We're a little over 2 hours till
T-minus 3 hours preparation has already been done.
Yep. I mean, they will be staying in the spacecraft for more than 2 hours before the blast off.
Yes.
What kind of procedures will they go through at this stage?
Well, there are a lot of work to do. So first, when all the 3 crew members has already entered the re-entry capsule, they must, with the help of the ground staff, they must close the hatch between the orbital module and the re-entry capsule. And then the hatch on the side of the orbital module will also be closed. And then another hatch on the payload ferry. So there are 3 hatches they need to close. And also during this procedure, we must check if it is already formed what we call the airtight sealings. So keep the pressure of the inner volume atmosphere is extremely critical to ensure the safety and life of our astronauts. And also not only the airtight sealing, after they close their helmet, face mask, they will also check this.
So on your right, we are seeing a great look of what's inside the re-entry module. That is where the 3 astronauts will be staying. Talk to us more about what are we seeing?
You know, that's during the third batch of astronauts, we will have flight engineers and payload experts. Mr. Gui Haitao from the Beijing University is the first payload expert. So in the future, because our technology become more and more practical and the Shenzhou space become more and more comfortable. So I believe professors like Mr. Sui maybe will be more and more of these scientists like him to go to the outer space.
Like a payload
expert.
And according to authorities, it's very likely that these new...
Anyway, our first astronaut, he mentioned to the major media of China that all the astronauts chosen for the human missions to the moon will first have their experience inside. As I mentioned, their experience in the Tiangong space station for half a year will be very, very helpful for them for the future moon missions, although the procedure is quite different.
And there were several candidates from Hong Kong and Macau making it to the final stages of the selection process. So, you know, we could see new astronauts from these regions very soon. Let's get more updates from the launch pad. We can now go live to our reporter, Sun Ye. Sun Ye, great to see you. Also, Huang Yue is joining us from the Beijing Aerospace Control Center. Hey, great to see you too. So let's start with Sun Ye. Walk us through the preparations prior to the launch. We're getting really close. How are the astronauts doing now?
Hey there, Jiuquan, and hello again. Yes, the preparation is going at the last stage right now. It's minus 15 minutes until the launch. So throughout the last half an hour or so, we're seeing the last fires of cars leaving, and that means the rocket and everything in it is pretty much on its own, and they are ready. And then the astronauts, we earlier checked in with an expert with the astronaut system, and he said the Shenzhou 18 crew, they're doing fine. They're breathing all right. Their heart rates are fine. Now, this is probably the only chance we'll get to see the rocket here in its hull and this spectacular scene. I think maybe it's all right if we take around a minute or so to have a good look, a last look at it before it goes up to space. Now, this Long March 2F manned carrier rocket, it's actually it actually came in compartments, in pieces, and was carried by train from northern China to here in Jiuquan, in northwest China. And I think you're getting a better picture than me now. And I'm going to walk you through how this beautiful rocket is put together. Now, the first step is to put the core stage 1. That's the first thing to get stable. And then the 4 boosters, they are then attached to it. And then that's the core stage 2. The spaceship, along with the fairing, they are close together in another place before they are transported to meet the other 2 stages already done. And the last item in that assembly is the escape tower. Now, the rocket has been in great condition ever since that assembly, and we have seen it rolled out earlier last week. And ever since then, it's checks and rechecking done by people across the systems. We also just talked to an expert with the rocket system. His work up until now is still checking that the rockets are fine, and the rocket is fine, and the spaceship is fine so far as we know. So everything is set for the launch that's happening in a few minutes.
Thank you very much. And as you were speaking, so yeah, the launch time has been adjusted, has been moved up a little bit, just a little bit. Now, turning to you, Huang Yue, the Beijing Aerospace Control Center is overseeing Shenzhou 18's launch. What's the latest there?
Yes, Jiuquan, and the launch time is just around the corner, only a few minutes left. So here in the Beijing Aerospace Control Center, every staff member is busy making the last-minute preparations, as it's the command and information exchange center to ensure that every step and every aspect of the mission runs smoothly. So we are now actually on the 3rd floor of the center, and on the 1st floor is the ground control team, and which is mainly responsible for the control and command over all working systems, such as those on the rockets, the spacecraft, the space station, and the launch site. And actually, if you and our audience once followed our previous missions, you might have already known that this team has a very special nickname called Beijing Copy, because this phrase once became so popular on Chinese social media platforms because it's going to be used so frequently and repeatedly in the hall after launching. And actually, I arrived here hours earlier before the launch because, to be honest, this is also the first time for me to cover the launch mission. So I came here earlier trying to get more familiar with the situation. And one of the things that impressed me the most is that the team members here are quite young, and many of them are in their 30s or even 20s. So you can tell that people born in the 1990s have already become the main workforce for China's aerospace industry, and they're so calm and confident. It doesn't mean that they won't get nervous. Of course they could be, but they won't show that because they've already had vigorous trainings and tests, and they are professional enough, they're intelligent enough to deal with any situation. So from them, you can see a very promising future for China's aerospace industry. And in addition to the ground control team, behind me there were 2 screens. As you can see, one shows the launch site and the other one shows a return capsule. And inside there are 3 taikonauts, the Shenzhou 17 crew members, and they are making the final preparation and waiting for their colleagues to come and meet with them. And I was told that they can actually watch the live broadcast of the mission. But of course, they're watching the CCTV 30, the Mandarin channel. But next time, I do suggest that they watch CGTN special live coverage, because I'm not worried about their language skills. And I believe they must also be very excited, because after a 6-month business trip to space, on the end of this month, they will come down back to Earth and they will meet their friends, families, and colleagues. Back to you, Jiuquan.
Thank you very much. Huang Yue live for us in Beijing there. Now, medical protective measures are important for taikonauts to stay in space for a long time. And for the Shenzhou 18 mission, these are already in place. Li Yinghui, Deputy Chief Designer of the Astronaut System of China's Manned Space Program, explains how these measures keep taikonauts healthy in space.
这个医学呢，我们涵盖2个方面。
For the Shenzhou 18 mission, we took personalized medical protection measures to keep our taikonauts healthy. This proved effective in the second space trip for Ye Guangfu this time. What's more, for this mission, we conducted a series of medical experiments in space. They cover several aspects. For example, we've done in-depth research on health assessment model building on the known risks. They will enrich our established knowledge, technical reserves, and database. They will also provide us more theoretical and technical support. We also use traditional Chinese medicine like acupoint therapy, which adds to the healthy protection for taikonauts.
For those of you who just joined us, you're watching our special coverage of the Shenzhou 18 launch. We're less than 15 minutes ago till the launch, and as our Soyan earlier mentioned, all the ground staff have pulled back already. And but the rocket's still attached. Is it? Is it still attached to the launch tower? It's not running on its own just
yet. You may
yet.
notice that the rotational arms in the middle of the rocket is still connected to attached to the launch vehicle. So which means that still we have the cables provide the electricity to the launch vehicle, and also maybe about 3 minutes, 5 or 3 minutes, some of the arms will leave the launch vehicle, and the launch vehicle will stand on its own. But you know that I can still notice that when you talk with Ms. Sun Ye, I noticed that the commander and also his crew members are still reading the manual very carefully. Also, you know that yesterday during the conference, when the crew member meet with the media, you know that they are full of confidence, but they are also very careful and be aware of what the challenge they will face. So, like their previous crew members, they are reading their manual. As I mentioned, not only the normal operations and the normal procedure, but also all the conditions they must possibly to be faced. So this is this shows that they are very, very professional.
Yeah, we're approaching T-minus 5 minutes.
Okay.
There you go, the call out.
So in the coming minutes, we will have several very, very important steps, as we've already discussed. The transfer of power supply from the ground to the launch vehicle itself, and also the activation of the what we call the guidance, navigation, and control system, or the GNC system. And also, as we've already heard many times, the commander in Jiuquan satellite from Centro, we call that the Commander Zero.
Oh, they've put down their face shield.
Okay, they close the face mask of their helmet. So at this moment, they have formed the second airtight sealings as a backup measure to ensure their safety.
And they're still looking at their manuals. What kind of things are on their checklist?
There are all kinds of instructions on if you met this problem, how to solve it, how to do any right operation or the right choice.
Yeah, and it's usually very quiet at the launch control around this time as we're getting really close to time zero. Not so much calm going on there, except for a few simple commands and the final countdown. And that's because the final status checks by now, most of them have been completed, so that's a good sign. You don't want to hear too much noises around this time.
Yep. And also, you know that today in the Jiuquan satellite launch center and in other launch sites of China, we also use UAV, unmanned air vehicle, to give a good sight of the launch, the whole launch procedure itself. And also, in every live coverage, we can see from our CGTN coverage, we can see the videos from the cameras mounted on the launch vehicle. So that's also a very good reference for us to ensure the status of the launch vehicle and also everything goes okay.
And you're looking at the launch control. T-minus 3 minutes. I suppose everybody is going through their own task procedure for a final time in their mind. Super focused, because this is a teamwork, right? Everybody needs to do their job perfectly right to make sure we have a good launch. Quite a nerve-wracking moment for the flight crew, for the whole launch team.
You may notice
for all of us who are watching.
Rotational arms, some of the rotational arms will begin to move from the fuselage of the rocket. We also mount cameras to monitor the status of these rotational arms, because there are very important cables and pipes connected to the launch vehicle.
What do you think is going through the astronaut's mind? I think as much as this is a moment for excitement, this could be a moment for anxiety.
You know, that they have been trained many, many times for this. You know, that from the experience, not to be Chinese astronauts, some of my friends, the foreign astronauts, they said they cannot distinguish from a simulation or a real one. So this shows that they can be trained so intensively, and the simulation is so real. Today, with the VR and AR technology, it becomes more real than before.
Yeah. And really, there's not much they can do for this short period of time. They're being strapped in, things are out of their hands. They're basically relying on their team to get them out there safely.
Usually, they will salute before the, maybe several seconds before the liftoff.
We're approaching T-minus 2 minutes, I guess.
Yep. So this is a beautiful evening of Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center.
1 minute out. An incredible moment to witness. Truly a magnificent view.
The weather is a bit cloudy in Jiuquan, so the reporter mentioned that we may or may not see the moon.
Yeah.
The rotational arms have already been rotated.
So the umbilicals just pulled away. This is some riveting feed there. You can see the Shenzhou 7.
Yeah, as we mentioned, they are watching the live coverage.
Yeah. And they have decorated the space station a little bit, put up welcome banners.
Yeah.
20 seconds to go. It's a go for the launch. The Shenzhou 18 is just seconds away from blastoff. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Ignition. And at the moment, 20 seconds after the liftoff, we will have a pitch over, which means that the flight direction will change from a vertical one to the horizontal one, to the eastward.
Just a spectacular view there.
Yeah. You can see the 8 engines working very perfect.
And you can hear the voices from the launch team providing tracking status, saying things are going good. And that's
great. You can see the videos from the camera mounted, looking backwards.
So these are the side boosters.
Yeah, we can see 2 of the side boosters. And at about, okay, I believe this moment already the pitch over has already been accomplished.
So if things goes well, we could see the escape tower being detached in just a few minutes.
We just heard that the ground station's report that everything goes okay, the flight is normal.
And we can see both the infrared image and the optical image.
Exactly. So at the moment of the 120-second will be the critical step to jettison the escape tower.
So the escape tower is essentially a small solid fuel rocket set on top of the capsule. In the event of an emergency, such as an impending explosion, it'll pull the capsule far enough away from the launch vehicle to allow for a normal parachute land.
Because at the moment of 2 minutes, it's already high enough, so we don't need the escape tower. But still, we have emergency escape engines on the payload ferry. We can see that during the live coverage previously. We can see the trail, as I mentioned, on this maybe infrared image.
Yeah, if it's during the day, we could see it very clearly, but because it's dark, so we're relying on the infrared image now. Another critical step coming up very soon.
At the moment, 153 minutes. Okay, great.
Oh, that's the call out.
The emergency escape tower has already separated, and then will be the separation of the 4 boosters.
So you saw bright flash over there. The emergency escape system. Bright flash over there. The emergency escape system have been separated, indicating the initial low-level flight went pretty well.
Yeah, it's already supersonic now. Great.
Booster separation.
The separation of 4 boosters, and then the separation of the first stage.
Immediately. The first stage separation. A successful separation.
Great. And the next critical step will be the separation of the payload ferries.
In the past few minutes, we've seen a series of fast maneuvers and status reports there.
Now the combination of the Shenzhou spacecraft and the launch vehicle is flying eastward. Oh, this is video cameras mounted on the rear part of the second stage. And this camera is inside the payload ferry, looking forward. You can see that's okay.
There you have it.
The separation of the payload ferry.
Roughly 4 minutes into the flight, we are seeing fairing jettison. So now the spacecraft is exposed in space.
I just heard the voice of Mr. Ye Guangfu, the commander. He reported that the payload ferries, now they can see the sightseeing outside. But I believe 02 and 03 have a better view.
Yeah, they've got a window seat.
Yeah. But there is no aisle seat.
I wonder what they could see from their windows now.
Usually, in the previous missions, sometimes they can entering the sunshine areas, but this moment they are still in the shadow areas of the Earth.
So in about a few minutes, we're going to see the second stage rocket being dropped. So
well, the second stage works much longer than the first stage, more than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Now you can see this is a camera the video camera mounted on the second stage.
Is this the time that the crew will feel maximum G-forces?
Usually that happens
right before
at the separation of stages, because at the moment the thrust has a certain number, but you know that with the fuel becomes less and less, and the acceleration becomes greater and greater. Usually at the separation of the first stage or the separation at the second stage, they will experience the maximum peak of the G-forces.
So you might want to take a look at these astronauts and see just whether it'll show on their face or through their body gesture.
But the 3 to 4G is not a big problem for them.
It's nothing for them.
They'll be trained for up to 8 to 10 Gs. And even in 8 to 10 Gs, they can do the right operations.
So the highest G load they're going to feel is around
10. In abnormal
during
cases.
the flight?
No, in this normal flight,
5G?
usually 3.6.
Okay, that's not so bad.
Not so bad.
But that's already a large number for our normal people. Imagine you have 3 more people on yourself, right? So that's the loading.
Usually, how would your body react to that many G-forces?
Usually, you just need to say activate more muscles. You recruit more muscle activity to work against that overgravity.
Is there anything that they can do now to offset the effect of high G-forces?
I think the design of their seat and their body posture is already very helpful for them to remove the actual forces. Yeah. So if everything's normal, as we just heard, they are actually in a quite comfortable condition, as they are very used to those in their everyday training. Yeah.
Now we can see on the left of the screen is the video camera mounted on the second stage looking backwards. Our second stage of the Long March-2F rocket have one main engine with a thrust about 80 tons. And also we have 4 vernier engines which control the attitude and the direction. So you can see the video camera monitoring the proper working of these rocket engines. Very bright, but this moment is already out of the atmosphere. Okay. Still, the Shenzhou 17 crew is watching the live coverage. They will meet after 6 or 7 hours.
Very soon, very soon.
I believe our Shenzhou 17 crew have already prepared the breakfast for our Shenzhou 18 crew.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
And I suppose in a few minutes after the second stage shut down, we are going to see things starting to drift, starting to float.
But that's the normal procedure is that we first shut down the main engine. Still, the 4 vernier engines works. And we will adjust the trajectory. Okay, as I mentioned, the main engine shut off. And the 4 vernier engines still working, and we will adjust the trajectory very precisely. So after several seconds, after we have already entered the right orbit, we will shut down the vernier engines. And then will be the separation of the spacecraft.
Yeah, so it looks like the astronauts are feeling a bit more at ease now.
Yes, because the shutdown of the main engine, the G-forces is not so remarkable now.
Yeah, as the environment is changing from high G-forces to microgravity conditions.
So when the shutdown of the vernier engine, they will experience 0 G.
Yeah, so things will start to be floating if you watch closely. Oh, that's the shot of the solar panel.
Yeah, it's still folded now.
So the next critical step would be?
The shutdown of the vernier engines. Okay. You can see on the bottom right is a 3D simulation, but this simulation is based on the real data, which means that the position, the attitude of the launch vehicle is representing the real status. So you can see the second stage works much longer than the first one because the thrust is much smaller. We have 2 solar wings and each have 4 panels.
I think for the 2 new astronauts, Li Guangsu and Li Xiqiang, this will be a very exciting moment.
Changjiang is a space tracking ship. The code, I believe it will be Yuan 7 space tracking ship. It's in the Pacific Ocean. And it's already established. Look, on the simulation, we look at the dash lines. It's already established. Okay, great. Separation. Confirmed.
So you can get a really good look at the spacecraft now in that 3D animation. 3 modules, right? Talk to us about it.
Yeah. So the next critical step will be the unfolding of the solar panels. So only with this operation we can have continuous power supply for the Shenzhou spaceship.
So by now the second stage is drifting away in space. The rocket has completed its tasks. That sent the spacecraft into the planned orbit successfully.
And also from the voice, we can hear that our Changjiang 7 or the Yuan 7 space tracking ship has already established stable communication with our Shenzhou spaceship. They are more relaxed.
Because they will be getting back to Earth in a few days.
Actually, I believe they will not sleep this night because they will be very, very exciting. There are visitors.
Yeah, they'll be back in about 5 days.
Yeah.
And I believe they will bring very fresh food for them.
And they've also made rooms for their friends.
There are 6 bedrooms inside of it. 3 in the Tiangong 1 command. But in the China's tradition, we don't have a zero-G indicator. Usually in other countries, they have some toy to be the zero-G indicator to show it's floating everywhere.
The ground team is confirming the status with the crew and confirming the status of the spacecraft.
And Mr. Ye Guangfu, the commander, and Mr. Tang Hongbo, the commander of the Shenzhou 17 crew, both come from the second mission. This is their second flight mission.
顶山收到，东风。东风收到。3、2、1，停。放手。
With the separation of the end stage of the rocket, the Shenzhou 18 spacecraft is already in orbit. So next, our ground team will check the accuracy of the orbital parameters. If everything is accurate enough, we can announce that it is a successful launch.
北京明白。
长程报告，太阳帆板展开正常。
太阳帆板展开正常。
Great. The solar panels are unfolded very normally.
And what comes after this? What comes next?
Next will be the examination of the, as I mentioned, we will double check or even triple check with different data resources to check the accuracy of the orbital parameters. Tiangong space station and a dock visit.
So we cannot just declare the success just yet. We have to wait for.
We just heard his voice that the antenna for the data relay satellite has already been unfolded very normally. You know that we have a small device to keep connection with our data relay satellite, but we also have a high gain antenna which can send videos from this antenna to the Tianlian data relay satellite. This is also very important for us.
That's a big improvement compared to previous missions.
And it also ensures the very reliable connection between the ground stations and our ground centers to our Shenzhou spacecraft. You know, every mission is risky because you know that there are so many uncertainties. So keep a very smooth communication with the space flight center, control center will be a very good insurance to keep the success of our flight mission.
Now looking at the three astronauts.
神舟18号，我是北京。
Let's listen in.
神舟18号到。通报座舱大气环境及身体情况。
We've just heard ground control exchanging a few words with the flight commander, trying to confirm their status.
Air quality.
Yeah, so Ye Guangfu just said,
feeling good.
Yeah, they're feeling okay. They're feeling good.
长城我是北京，通报座舱环境。
An internal environment inside the spacecraft is also good.
北京明白。 神舟18号，我是北京，经地面确认，座舱环境正常，可以打开面窗。神舟18号明白。
We have a very important, very critical subsystem called the atmospheric control system. So as mentioned we heard the voice that the atmosphere inside the cabin is good. So they can open their face mask.
Another critical step.
You can see they're still busy reading their menu.
Yeah. I mean, a pretty young team we're looking at. In their 30s, 40s, is this the trend? Are we going to see younger and younger astronauts in the future?
Yeah, I think we're looking forward to see the younger generation of astronauts. They are taking charge of more and more launching missions.
What's considered as a prime thing?
I think it depends from.
倾角41.5度，周期1小时30分钟的预定轨道，飞船座舱环境正常，航天员状态良好。 北京出轨根数及分离点参数已向各方向发出。东风。东风明白。华山。
We've already got the orbital parameters as announced by the Beijing Flight Control Center. So the perigee is 200 kilometers, and the apogee is 356 kilometers, and the inclination is 41.5 degrees. So it's a very accurate launch.
It'll take an hour and a half, right, for them.
So they will spend 6.5 hours in orbit to chase our Tiangong space station and finally dock to the docking port at the bottom of our node.
And that'll be an automated rendezvous?
In normal cases, it will be an automatic one. But if anything wrong happens to the automated docking system, as you mentioned, we will switch to the manual docking. And all these crew members were well trained for this operation.
This is the Beijing Aerospace Flight Center. So after the launch, they will be taking over the monitoring job. We're still standing by for an official confirmation declaring the launch as a success.
After coming into orbit of our Shenzhou spacecraft, the control will be switch from our Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center to Beijing Flight Control Center.
So Beijing will take over.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess the ground team are doing some calculations, maybe some adjustment burns.
Exactly.
For the
As I mentioned, we based on different data resources to confirm the accuracy of each orbital parameter to ensure that it is accurate enough. Because as we've already discussed, the Shenzhou spacecraft must enter the same orbital plane of our Tiangong space station. So this is the most essential and most important requirement to its accuracy. And then because it is now lower than our Tiangong space station, so it orbiting the Earth faster than our Tiangong space station. So it is a chasing vehicle, and it comes closer and closer, and after 6.5 hours, we will dock together.
天路跟踪正常，遥测信号正常。天路跟踪正常。
Tianlu is another name of our Tianlian data relay satellite system. So at this moment, it's already out of the coverage of our space tracking ship, and it is mainly based on our Tianlian data relay satellite. As we've already heard the voice, that the high gain antenna has already been unfolded. So at this moment, we can transfer not only the voices, but also can transfer the videos from our cabin of our Shenzhou spacecraft.
Right. You know, China has this 3.
Your speakers there just said this is about building capacity, expanding the space station, and doing research and development, both on the space station, scientifically, doing interesting things there. In fact, one thing, as an astronomer, one thing I'm really excited about is the Zhongtian space telescope, which should be launched to Tiangong, not docked to it, but nearby to it, and doing some very interesting scientific astronomy experiments over the years to come. But it's about that development, building the station, making it an efficient place to do science, but also looking forward, I imagine, to the moon and Mars.
Now, China has said astronauts from other countries are welcome to go to the China space station. It says it is committed to the peaceful development in space. How would you assess prospects for international collaboration in space exploration?
Well, that's a very interesting question, of course, particularly given the current geopolitical context. Without going into too much depth, the world is not perhaps in a happy place at the moment. And exactly how nations decide to collaborate on many things, of course, is something which is constantly in focus politically. And space is a political thing. We should never just think of it in terms of science or exploration. There is a strong political element. But I think it's also worth looking back to the past and looking, for example, at the Apollo-Soyuz test project in the 1970s and the space station itself, the International Space Station, where, of course, the United States and Russia at the moment have grave differences over the war in Ukraine, but are still collaborating in space. So it's not an easy thing to see into the future and see how that international collaboration may also include China. But I'm optimistic that we'll find ways of doing that, because the things we want to do in space are incredibly challenging and do indeed need to bring nations together to solve some of those problems. And those problems then reflect on the Earth. We have problems on the Earth we need to solve. So being able to collaborate internationally in space also might give us hope we can collaborate internationally, for example, on climate change. So I think it's a tricky question, but let's be optimistic and see that we can actually work together.
Yeah, let's be optimistic. Thank you very much, Professor Mark O'Connor. Thank you very much for taking the time talking to us. We appreciate your perspectives. Now, Yang Liwei, the deputy chief designer of China's manned space program, talked to CDT and reporter Zheng Yibing on international cooperation in space programs, including China's manned lunar landing. Listen in.
From the perspective of manned space flights, international cooperation is a well-established practice. It is true for our country and also space powers like the United States and Russia, which are cooperating even under such tense international circumstances. So we actually, from the early days till now, when we have a space station, have been seeking cooperation even though there's a lot of international constraint. Therefore, we took a path of self-reliance. For manned lunar landing, we discussed its feasibility around 2010 and 2011, and we're looking for international cooperation. We hope that different countries and institutions can join us in the whole lunar landing program, complement each other's efforts, promote the development of this cause, and explore the unknown for human beings. So I hope more countries and institutions will join us.
Stay with us for more of our live coverage on the space Shenzhou 18 launch mission. And now for more on the top stories making headlines around the world, let's head things over to my colleague Xia Cheng.
Thank you, Qiu Yuan. So first up, Chinese President Xi Jinping